Hello everyone, it is Joe here from OmniPoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon. If you want to head over to the Potown store, you can go ahead and check out their PTCGO codes. You can even use the OmniPoke code for an extra 5% discount on your orders. Jumping into today's video though, we're going to be looking at Ability ReshiZard. This is a deck that I'm a really big fan of. I've been testing it on stream just a little bit today. We've got a nice tidy win streak going. Obviously Tord Reklev was one of the players piloting this at the World Championships to a top 4 placement, which is really impressive. Taken down eventually by Shintaro with his Blacephalon deck. You can see that I've made a couple changes to his list. I've cut Super Scoop Ups. Now, this is something that I'm not hugely certain is correct, but it's something that I've done. It's meant that I can squeeze in 2 more non-GX attackers, one being Volcanion, one being Tapu Fini. Tapu Fini obviously going to help out that Blacephalon matchup, and the Volcanion I found to be pretty useful against some other tag team based matchups, allowing you to use Flare Starter to get even more energies into play. On those opening turns when you go second is a pretty big deal. Think about mirror matches for this deck. Think about Pikarom coming in with Judge and stuff like that. It really eases the pressure on you finding multiple welders over 2 turns in a row and helps you get more energy into play. That's the main reason why he's here. He can also use things like High Heat Blast to knock out Jirachis in the early game, again in like mirror match situations or against Malamar and stuff. So he can really do some nice early pressure if you really need him to. So essentially this deck has 1 Nitkos in mind. That's pretty much the deck in a nutshell. It's been labeled as a theme deck at times for the amount of energy that it plays. 18 is pretty much unheard of for any other deck around. Blacephalon thought it had a high energy count with like 15 or 16 if you include the beast energy, but we've gone for the full 18 here, and we only play 4 supporters in Welder. So it really is unorthodox and unconventional, but the idea of the deck is to try and get 1-hit KOs with the likes of the Double Blaze GX attack. With 6 energy, you can do 300 damage. You even get through all effects, which can really be nice against things like Keldeos or against Tag Purge and stuff like that. So that's a pretty good option to have. Heatran with his Heatran-GX has a very similar 1-hit KO option, doing 50 times the amount of energy attached to this Pokemon. So again, 6 fire energies on this guy, you can do 300, which is a pretty good deal. Burning Road can also steal energies from around the board and bring him all onto the active when you switch into this guy, which is pretty awesome. Steaming Stomp can do 130, Vanilla as well. This is actually really helpful against a couple of more fringe decks. Things like Behemoth, it can be really nice because it's just a consistent 130 that you can do turn by turn without any like downside, like Flare Strike caster. Well, it's not chainable, and a few other things aren't chainable. Steaming Stomp just helps you get through that stuff as you like Ninetales around their Alolan Ninetales, which is normally how the matchup goes. Heatran obviously good for knocking out other non-GXs in those early turns alongside Welder if you don't want to commit towards a Flare Strike or don't want to spend a Double Blaze in those opening turns. Just take that single prize if you really want to. Obviously very nice baseline for dealing with like Giratinas and stuff as well. So Steaming Stomp and Hot Burn, both great attacks in here. And yeah, that Burning Road ability is also very nice, makes him very flexible. You can sort of burst him onto the field. You can welder maybe to some suboptimal targets and then know that you have Heatran in the back that can just come into play and use them for himself. More 1-hit KO options in Turtonator. This is a non-fire type Pokemon, and it's also a non-GX, so this really helps get around a bunch of annoying Pokemon like Araquanid, Bronzong, Keldeo, Alolan Ninetales, stuff like that. So Explosive Jet is, once again, big 1-hit KO. It's that same multiplier as the GX attack from Heatran, but you can discard from any of your Pokemon the amount of fires, and yeah, you do 50 times, so that's pretty awesome. And then we have the final 1-hit KO merchant, which is Victini Prism Star. The whole reason why this deck plays 18 fire energy is because the entire game, you're basically trying to complete a mini quest as you go through your turns. It's also in your interest to get rid of a bunch of fire energy cards. That's because Infinity does 20 times the amount of basic energy in your discard pile, and then you shuffle all those back into your deck. So you heard all these 6 energy attack costs, like the Charizard-GX attack, Heatran if it wants to knock out a tag team, Turtonator if it wants to knock out tag teams. All of these require a huge amount of energy cards, and obviously we play 18. So we're going to be using, Giant Hearth, Heat Factory, 9 Temptations from Ninetales. We're going to be using all these heavy hitting attacks to take big one-shots, knowing that in the late game, if we have, say, 14 fire in our discard pile, which is normally, the kind of target that we look for, Infinity just one-shots tag teams. So he really is a great sweeper, and even if he's not literally taking the last 3 prizes, he can reset your fire energy cards back into your deck, so you can use more things like 9 Temptations once again to close out the game. So Throughout the game, you'll see that there is this mini goal of getting as many red cards in your discard pile as possible. Keeping track of these is a big deal with the archetype, because you want to make sure that you have enough to do things like Ninetales into Victini, and you can always just burst all of these attackers onto the scene with these welders, of course. So I've already mentioned the Volcanion, Flare Starter being a nice attack going second, and High Heat Blast doing 110, which is again good for dealing with non-GXs in the early game. This Ninetales is another like key selling point of the deck. Essentially, we have more Gust than any other deck. It's like the most available in our deck, and we're going to try and use that to advantage. Being a one-hit KO deck, as we are, we want to make sure that we're doing it on the biggest threats on the board, or the ones that give us the most prizes, so we can win in, you know, the smallest number of attacks. So 9 Temptations literally just says you can discard 2 fire from hand. If you do, switch your opponent's benched with the active. This is much easier for us to do than accumulate things like custom catchers. We play so many fires that this is often very live. We also have Giant Hearth as a 3 count in the deck, which is a stadium that can literally just, you can discard any card, you can get those 2 fires. Essentially, Gust is always available to us if we need to. Gusting, as I said, is great for dealing with tag teams, but it's also good for getting around a few other pesky things like spell tags in Malamar players' decks, and make sure that you just keep knocking out Mallies and really hurting their overall potential. So getting around spell tags as well as taking the big one-shots is basically why Ninetales is in here, and it's obviously a very effective strategy. It means against things like GreenZard, I feel like we're a little bit favoured, because as long as we can have outs to Power Plant, because the Dedenne is a big part of our engine, you will be more able to gust out their ReshiZard first, and usually the person who strikes first in that sort of matchup will end up on top, because you'll be able to double blaze, take 3 prizes whilst also eliminating a number of energies on their biggest threat, and make it so that your ReshiZard stays on board for 1 or 2 more turns, which is insane. So the Ninetales really does help that along, and means that we can target down huge threats whilst leaving things like our 1 prizes in the active. That's a big reason why we play for Jirachi. Stellar Wishing obviously is phenomenal. It gets us towards Welder, our only supporter in the deck. It gets us towards things like Giant Hearth, Cherish Ball, obviously giving us great outs to the Dedenne. So Jirachi is going to help us get these combo pieces rolling, which is obviously a pretty big deal for us, whilst at the same time just being a 1 prize that we can sit in the active. If your opponent wants to come up and swing with a big tag team to take a single prize, that's amazing for us, because we'll have Charizard most likely waiting in the back. Or even if we don't have anything, necessarily waiting in the back, even if we have just like 2 energy on a Volcanion or something, we can be threatening, a Burning Road into Hot Burn GX at any time with this deck. So we can really punish people trying to take like tempo individual prizes against us. So just sitting in the active with Stellar Wish sometimes is the best move for you, because you can just sort of prey on the main attackers on a future turn. So these Jirachis are great for giving us better outs into our otherwise pretty clunky deck, whilst also being something that literally sits there and is giving us value throughout the game. The Tapu Fini's in here to help out against Blacephalon, obviously. I found it to be a more awkward matchup over my cups this weekend. I did win 2 cups this weekend, but my only loss and one of my only ties was to Blacephalon. Now, you can win the matchup without Tapu Fini, especially if you go first. I feel like you're actually still easily able to win, because you have non-GXs like Turtonator and Victini that can still help you swing the prize trade in your favour. But that requires you to find lots of welders. Needs you to find welder on 1, 2, and basically every turn of the game you need to have a welder against Blacephalon, because they're just good pace setters. They keep up with you toe-to-toe and make you keep finding stuff. The Tapu Fini just means, like, anytime you can just find a communication and you just take a 2 for 1 and make life very difficult for them. So it just gives us an extra non-GX that can really help us, like, breeze through that matchup. So by all means, cut the Tapu Fini if you find the Blacephalon matchup is easy enough. Right now, I feel like Blacephalon's a big enough archetype to tech for, just to have a bit of ease of mind against that matchup, really. From there, we have 3 Dedenne-GX. Dedenne Change is a big feature of this deck. Obviously, with such a low supporter count, our draw has to come through other means, and that's going to mainly be via that Dedenne Change, as we say. For Cherish, 3 com being a lot of outs of Stellar Wish to try and find this, as well as 3 physical copies, gives us a lot of reason to Dedenne Change a number of turns in a row. One thing I have to mention when you are not playing Super Scoop Ups is bench management does become something that you really have to be very careful of, because you can get punished if you're not able to use additional Dedenne changes later on in the game. If you can't Stellar Wish towards Welder and whatnot, you'll have to commit Dedenne to the board to try and draw into those sorts of things. So one sort of ease of mind and one sort of thing you can be playing in the deck is Super Scoop Up. That's obviously what Tord did. He played 3 copies. He essentially was not playing the Volk, not playing the Fini, and he was also playing a one less Switch, of course. So those would be the 3 cards if you want to net deck towards top 4 list exactly. But I've just been tinkering around with a few other things just recently, just because mirrors become a thing now. I feel like having an answer to just going second is probably a little bit important to me. But yeah, Super Scoop Up is definitely a card I can see going back into the list because it really helps your bench management at times. It can remove damaged Pokemon if you really want it to. It can remove easy like the Dennes that people can try and snipe, and that's something to bear in mind. But right now we're not doing that, so keeping an eye on your Dedenne board space is going to be something you'll hear me talk about a lot during the games, I imagine. Onto the trainers. Pal Pad to recycle our only supporter in Welder is obviously a pretty important card. 3 Acrobite to help us cycle a little bit further into the deck. We always like discarding Fire Energies for the most part, and we just want to, again, have better outs to work towards these low amount of supporter cards. Cherish Balls get us our main attackers, as well as Dedenne. 3 Communication gives us good odds to try and find these Vulpix and Ninetales early on, as well as our other individual Pokemon. 3 Switch to help supplement the Stellar Wish a lot. Also, we have some chunky retreaters. Sometimes the high retreat costs of the ReshiZard as well as the Heatran actually go in our favor, because we can do some big pay retreats late game for Infinity to get extra like burst damage out of nowhere in many cases, so something to bear in mind. 3 copies of Giant Hearth is just an absolutely bananas card, and it's one of the cards that just helps us deck tick. It really does help us get away with a silly amount of energy in our deck because we can thin it so efficiently with that Giant Hearth. So definitely something to bear in mind. I've got an insect on my glasses. But yeah, Giant Hearth allows you to discard any 1 card, and then you can go ahead and grab 2 fires from the deck. So we are able to thin the deck surprisingly quickly, really, and it's usually thanks to this card. Also, 1 Heat Factory, again, more synergy alongside Infinity. Obviously, this is usually live with the amount of fires that we have, and this is just a great card to help us dig a little bit further. Welder is the cream of the crop in this deck. It powers up all of our attackers and is just mandatory, really. It's what the deck is all about, trying to spam. A couple of skateboards to work on Jirachi mostly, as well as a couple other 1 retreaters like Dedenne and Vulpix. And also we have those 18 Fire Energies at the Cups. This weekend I did play 17 and 1 Fire Crystal. The 1 Fire Crystal is a card that you could be playing. Obviously, it gives you a little bit of extra value. It's one of these cards similar to Pal Pad, where like you really hope that this card is in like the bottom half of your deck rather than the top half of your deck, because then you get to use more 9 Temptations and you get to have Welder more live, and you're able to do other plays thanks, like just knowing that you have the Fire Crystal to sort of fall back on. Also makes Fire Energy that little bit more searchable. Gives you those 3 Hearths plus that 1 Fire Crystal as an additional out to Fire Energies off Stellar Wishes. But overall, I think after my testing today, there was too many situations where the Crystal was just not as good as the regular Fire Energy. So this weekend I played 17 and 1 Crystal. You can go down that line if you feel like you want to use Ninetales a lot. Usually you still use Ninetales like a good amount of times in the games, but definitely against things like Malamar, I found the Crystal really important because you want to get around Spell Tag for a large number of your turns. Especially when you don't play Scoop Ups, which I'm not. You really don't want to let any spell tags proc on your Jirachis or even on Dedennes that they can use with like Meowstic later on. Even just putting in Ninetales itself in range of a Sky Scorching Light. So you want to use Ninetales as much as possible, and Fire Crystal gives you essentially like an extra 1.5 9 Temptations like guaranteed. So it was useful for me over the weekend, but in the end I have gone back to these 18 Fire Energies. Super Scoop Up's the card that was in the top 4 list from Tord, and it's obviously a card that you could definitely consider, but right now I'm trying out these couple tweaks to the list to see how it functions. So I have been playing this deck a lot already today, so hopefully I'm not burnt out, and we can get back into focus and try and get some good games in with this deck. Now the only things I lost to so far was a Mirror and 1 Mewtwo, and that was in 14 games, I think, so yeah, pretty good. Let's see if it's going to stay powerful on the ladder right now. Looks like I saw only fire in the opening, so this might be a Green Zard. Green Zard is, I think, a favoured matchup. It depends on the amount of power plant people play. I think a knee-jerk reaction to this archetype being very strong is that Green Zard could easily go up to 3 or 4 copies of power plant. It may not be wrong to actually play 4 power plants, because you're seeing right now, we're going second, and literally, if we can't Dedenne, we can't do anything this turn. So, like, if they do just jam a power plant, and say we didn't have the Hearth, we would just get wrecked. So, something to bear in mind. But as it happens right now, we're holding a backup stadium, so that's something we can chill out with. We've got an opening. Oh, okay, this is something very different. This is Chandelure. Okay, Chandelure is actually a matchup I did play at the Cup as well, believe it or not. And I was able to take a very difficult win against them. It is a scary deck, of course. It can get big up trades on you, and they have a lot of Pokemon that they can pull out with that Chandelure. Oh, we get 7 mulligans. Jeez. That's crazy. I guess I'll put this down just in case they're going to stamp us. They obviously have a tendency to be a little inconsistent, but they can get big up trades, which is a little bit scary. Obviously, with those 7 mulligans, our hand is going to be pretty nutty. They're going to gear for a Misty's Favor. Why do they play Misty's Favor? I guess they're trying to protect, like, Brock or something from getting, like... I guess they pull all the supporters out of the deck, so they have better chances of getting the Chandelure working. That sounds pretty suspect to me, though. They are going to kick off with the greens, however. They get themselves a Giant Hearth, as well as a Com, so they can get another basic down, which sounds like a good idea to me. They're going to put in one of those stage 2s that they will use, Delphox. It lets you burn stuff every turn for an extra 20 damage, basically, which helps them push a little bit further on tag teams. Just going to get another Litwick and pass it over to us. Okay. Well, we have a lot of options here. We're definitely going to do these things straight away, because I want to get a Stellar Wish in. We're going to use both these Cherish Balls. We already have Dedenne in hand. I'm going to spend this because we already have the Com as well. We're going to check out a few things on the second search now as well. I'm going to quickly grab this guy. We have our Ninetales. We have Turtonator and Volcanion, 2 very reasonable non-GX attackers that we can try and use in this matchup. We have a Welder prized. We have 14, 15, 16 energy total, so 2 in the prizes. Should be plenty because we're against a non-GX attacker, so we don't need to go overboard with throwing fires into the discard pile, but we are going to grab the Heatran for now. We already have a lot of stuff. What am I going to attack with this turn? Is it just going to be a Turtonator attack? It should be a Turtonator attack if I can find another Welder. Otherwise, it may be safer just to attack with Heatran. They took Com and Hearth, which tells me they probably have another good supporter for next turn. They're probably holding on to Duskstone Lampant, I would imagine. Oh, we do find another Welder, so it means I can go for Turtonator now, which is really nice. So we're going to Com in the Zard, I think. It could be Heatran as well. Heatran's such an easy baseline for them. It's only 3 Pokemon because they do 10 base, then 60 more. So it might be the Heatran that goes in. Okay, fine. They are a deck that can also play Ninetales as well. They can play the same. They can cheat the same Ninetales out that we play, and it means that they can like gust stuff up, which is actually very scary for us. So something to bear in mind. At least the list that I played against at the weekend played like Magcargos and Ninetales, and it really popped off as soon as you got those initial stage 1s into play. So, got to be a little bit tentative to kick things off, but the hand is so stacked thanks to all those mulligans that I think we're getting away with it right now. Let's go for the Explosive Jet. We've got to dump 2. We definitely want to try and throw non-GXs in his face. There's a small argument to starting off with like a tag team, just because it's likely that they will have such a fat deck that they won't be able to like one-shot you or anything. Whereas like it's still likely for them to knock out a Turtonator. They only need to get 2 Pokemon in their top 5, which is pretty likely for the kind of build that they play. But I still just want to force them to attack as many times as possible, because they can Ninetales up the ReshiZard later, and I don't want to deal with that sort of stuff. So they do indeed have the Energy and the Lampant. They obviously still have the Hearth that they can play. Do they have the all-important Duskstone? I can't imagine they would have taken a Hearth if they didn't have Duskstone. Yep, there it is. They still have a potential supporter to play as well. We saw in their opening mulligan that they had a couple Charizards, the Roaring Resolve Zards, which is definitely an interesting backup attacker that they can have in the deck. They're going to Hearthway a Hearth to increase their odds of Spirit Burner. This was surprisingly a deck that was played in Day 2 of Worlds. It didn't do great, but just because it was played, that's enough of a compliment to the archetype. They have a Misty's Favor as their supporter for turn, which is pretty wild. Then you get greens and a couple of Brocks. That sounds really bad, because if they Spirit Burner out any of their ability stage 1s or 2s, the greens won't be doing much. Oh my goodness, they actually missed. That's gross. Super unlucky. I know the deck is a little bit memey, because it can miss a lot of the time, but that's just straight up super unlucky. I think the only hit was Lampent to stop them getting donked, at least. So we're going to keep up with our mini-quest. It's amazing that we've been able to have this opportunity to Explosive Jet again. I definitely didn't see that coming. But here we are. I can put this down. I can manually attach to a Victini as well, which I think I want to do. There'll be 7 in there. So yeah, that definitely makes sense to me. Means we don't have to use Welder. Next turn, give us a turn off. We can Explosive Jets. That's kind of the great thing about this deck. It has enough of a toolbox of attackers. Great prize, by the way. Enough of a toolbox of attackers to pose a threat against even non-GX archetypes. You can try and play the non-GX game for a few turns, and then drop a late game ReshiZard and make them answer it, which is always great. Greens is still live for them, so they can definitely go for a Dust Stone this turn. And they may want to do some other stuff. There's a Dust Stone naturally, without the need for green, so they can make some other plays as well. They can continue to thin the deck with Giant Hearth as well, which is pretty cool. I've got insects everywhere. It's a really hot day in the UK. It's even nighttime now. But it's meant that I've had all the windows open and stuff, so there are moths and everything in this room because the lights are on and it's nighttime. But, yeah. So we're going to see a greens. Are they just going to pull out cards that aren't Pokemon? Or are they going to try and com for at least one basic to be a little bit more safe? They're going to grab a Dust Stone and a green, so that tells you they're just going to try and thin that old deck and get Spirit Burning. And hope they hit more Pokemon this time. They're going to Hearthway that Misty. It's pretty wild to see them play Misty's Favor. Okay, here we go. That's a lot more damage. Here we go. Charizard, Lampent, Incineroar, and Magcargo. So that's certainly... the deck is going to be in something a lot more similar to full swing now, that's for sure. So, knowing that we have our Victini mini quest on the go, we can quite happily use the Hearth to thin the deck before this Wish. Do I need to bench a... If I find a Com, I could Com and try and find Heatran. Heatran could knock out Magcargo or Lampent. That would probably be the ideal here with 9 Temptations. So I think I'll Stellar Wish before the Welder. Pal Pad is definitely reasonable. Welder is also interesting. Heat Factory helps them draw some more cards, which I probably don't want to let them do. More Welders is never a bad thing. There's no Ninetales currently on their board, so I think we are going to drop the Zard here and Welder to this guy. Because it's not impossible for us to use him. Now we find the com, but it's a little bit late. We can maybe try and weave in the Volk on a later turn. We also have our second Ninetales. I could even be attacking with Ninetales like later on in the game, because they are 1 prizes that can do 90 damage. So I think we'll grab this now. We gotta do this. And are we scared of this Charizard more than we're scared of anything else? We have the opportunity to go ahead and knock out this Zard. Chandelier is very random. Magcargo is also an awkward card. The thing is, I want to make sure I can knock out Magcargo with like the Ninetales or something like that, because it has such low hit points. Knocking out the Zard. How many fires are in the discard pile? 3. They have Brock in hand, don't forget. This guy also just gives them an extra 30 damage. So their base is 40. Does it change their multipliers much? 6, 12, 18, 24. So it helps their multiplier a lot against Zard. I definitely want to take one of these higher hit point Pokemon out. I just got to think if I want to get rid of the active more than anything else. I think this multiplier from the Incineroar is the thing I want to get rid of. Because I really don't want this Zard going down in 1 smack. That's basically how we lose the game. So, let's reload 10 energy back into the deck. Take our 3rd prize. We're very far ahead right now, but whenever we see a Ninetales hit the field on our opponent's side, we basically have to deal with that guy. So that's something you have to bear in mind. They are going to Dust Stone out another Chandelier. I don't think they actually had to do that. They probably could have kept it in their deck to improve their Spirit Burner. But we only have 90 hit points, so I guess he's not too worried about that. He's going to play this Brock here, get back some of the gang, a bunch of fire energies, which they can hearth back out of their deck. Oh, he smooth overed before Giant Hearthing. That's really weird. It does guarantee a Pokemon to the top of his choosing, though. He probably should have done that after the half, though. We'll see if he smooth overs a Tails to the top. That's, again, the thing that we're afraid of. Smooth overed than Charizarded. Ugh. Whoops. Sure. Well, he still achieved the knockout. Did he get the dream? Yeah, there's a Ninetales and a Litwick if he wants the Litwick. Alright, I'm going to discard a Hearth with the Hearth. Gonna have a think about this turn a little bit. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Oh, it's so dangerous. Oh, everything's so dangerous. Okay, let's start with Stelliwish. This gives us the best dig. I'm going to evolve into Tails number 2. I think I got a welder to a Tails here. We draw a bunch more fires. There's our Volk, which I'd want to put down to play around Stamp, now that we know he plays one. Do I just Flame Tail the Magcargo is the question. 100 hit points is annoyingly just out of our reach. So yeah, I guess that's what we've got to do here. We have replaced the stadium, which is a pretty big deal for us. It makes it a little bit less likely that he can just straight up use the Ninetales against us. Question now becomes, can I afford to play Giant Hearth again? I probably can't afford to play Giant Hearth again, so I should probably Dedenne change here. Get us closer to these welders for next turn. Nice. We can play this. I think if he's going to kill one Zard, I got to make sure I have another Zard to make him do 2 big one-hit KOs. We'll Flame Tail this. Things are definitely scary this turn. He's gone into the Zard, which is very scary. He can Roaring Resolve, attach, and use Ninetales to bring out the ReshiZard for a guaranteed knockout. Depends on how many fire energies he plays, though. If he's able to make that play come off. I'm not certain of how many energies Chandelure decks play. We're going to see a Pokémon. Blaziken goes back into the deck. Oh, so that's another way they can accelerate Charizard. That's pretty cool. Looks like another Com. Chandelure goes back into the deck. Okay, he's going to just Blaze Ball the active. That's fine by me. So I want to Stellar Wish first, right? Because I want to make sure that Welder gets us into 2 more fires. Because ideally, we Nine Temptations up his Ninetales. So we'll Stellar Wish first. Oh, all the energies were there. We would have hit it off Welder. That's really annoying. Well, good luck us, I guess. It's basically impossible for you to miss all the energies. So I guess we put 2 here. Yeah, we did miss. I don't have enough deck cards. Oh, I do have exactly enough deck cards to make this play. Do I have enough fire energies, though? 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I think we just need to do this. Okay, that's pretty dope. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Yeah, okay, plenty. Alright, I think with the Ninetales out the way, we should be able to close the game. I should probably play around Stamp as much as I can. But other than that, the deck is very thin. He can't Gust our Zard. We've used a bunch of non-GXs. And we can just double blaze his last single prizer for game. So definitely a scary matchup when the Ninetales is in play. Fortunately, we were able to bump the Giant Hearth the one turn it was down. And we were able to close it out this time. So I feel like we're in good shape. But yeah, definitely a scary matchup. Fortunately, I have played against it before, believe it or not, this weekend. So definitely a scary deck. But in the end, we were able to just about get there. Whew. Making me nervous, Chandelure, but there we go. And the ladder wants to give us a couple of packs. Thank you very much. And we'll get a second game in. We'll see if we can find a more orthodox deck on the ladder. Ah, Fairy. So, Guardy Sylveon is also a power plant based deck, which is definitely scary. Obviously, it's an archetype that we can one-hit KO pretty easily. So that's going for us. Well, this can happen with the theme deck element of this archetype. We can definitely get hands full of energy. Looks like we definitely are up against a greens Guardian base build. We definitely will appreciate those mulligans. That's amazing for us. Our opponent chose to go second as well, so they're definitely trying to get Fairy Songs going quickly. We already have double Welder going for us, which is amazing. We have 15 Fire Energies to play with. We have our Victini, which is great news. Okay, everything's looking pretty peachy. We have this opening Welder, which is insane. Saved by the mulligans a little bit this game, but we'll take it. We'll attach. Do we need Vulpix? They sometimes play things like Xerneas and Mimikyu GX to try and make us go down to one prize. I don't really want to tangle all that stuff, so I'll save the com for Dedenne for next turn, so we can just pass it there. We're already threatening a lot against this Guardian. They kick off with their own greens here. They have a Wondrous Labyrinth, which does stop us double blazing for full value unless we find a counter stadium. They're going to hearth away a Fairy Charm because they don't need those this matchup. I'm going to Cherish Ball out a second Gardevoir Sylveon. There is the Wondrous, and they are just going to Fairy Song. Let's kick off with Welder. We do get Ninetales. We can attach 6th energy. I think I want to protect. What card do I want to protect? Well, I think I want a thinner card. I think I want to thin this guy. We only need 1 ReshiZard. We still have 3 stadiums in the deck. What do I protect with this Pokecom? I feel like I can definitely bench this guy. I feel like I protect the Vulpix. Put this back in just for a Jirachi. I could definitely just switch into Jirachi. It makes me find another switching card, but it gives me higher odds of finding Stadium. And it means I don't just get smacked. So that's pretty tempting for me. And this can happen. No sign of Stadium or switching option just yet. Oh, it's so sad. It's an annoying Acrobike. We can't take the Stadium because we need this guy. We can still a wish though. That's another Stadium. We don't need to do it this turn though, and we want to have answers to power plants. So I assume we just got to pass here. Yep, seems fine. They're going to play a Bill's Analysis. They're going to get greens and stamp. Looks like they're going to try and stamp us out of that hearth. They have a tag switch as well, so they can Kaleidostorm this turn if they wish. It's very bold. It's very bold. Okay, we can Giant Hearth. We can use the Hearth. We can use this Welder on our turtle. For sure. Put Jirachi down as well. I'm pretty happy with that. And we can just double blaze here. We're definitely going to get stamped, but we're already threatening game with any switching card, as long as they don't gust Turtonator. We still have 2 switches in the deck. They are going to go for a greens here. They may be forced to get customs. Yeah, they've got a custom up turtle, I guess. And the reset stamp. We could have benched Victini potentially to help out against stamp, but it makes us a little bit vulnerable to more customs. Like if he customed again next turn, that would be a bit of a shame. Guardian does play a bunch of heal, so something to bear in mind. They were not able to replace the stadium, which is pretty sick for us. It means we can dead A change here. 6, 12, 13. Okay. 14, 15. So we definitely will take that opportunity. We still have Heatran in our deck that we can thin. We only have 1 more energy, so we have to save these energies for Victini Prism. I can certainly hearth away this Heatran now that we've used our GX attack. We can also slam the escape board down. And we will just use Flare Strike. Guardian does play a lot of heal. It plays Super Scoop Ups. It plays mixed herbs and great potions, I think. So it's not done and dusted, but they do need a lot to get back into this game. They're very far away from Magical Miracle. They have a Bill's Analysis to try and get them out of this rut. We've been pretty unlucky in that our last 3 prizes are all energy cards. It means we have a lot less flexibility this game to just close with a Victini Prism, but the matchup should still be in our favour. They're having a think if the Bills can get them anywhere closer to the game. They do find Power Plant as well as a Great Potion. Healing of any kind is very good here as long as they don't use... Oh wow, they're going for Scoop Up. Wow. Healing of any kind is good here as long as they don't attack into us. They can just Fairy Song the bench. Because we of course can't chain Flare Strike. They may pay retreat though. They may just be thinking they've only seen 1 switch. It may be safer to pay retreat. Oh, they're actually just going to concede. Okay. That's also fine. Feels like they were slowly trying to claw back into the game, but they were pretty far behind. Let's get one more game in with this deck. I think in terms of matchup spread, I think the thing that I want to test most against is Mew 3. Pikarom is very interesting now that they play a heavy Judge count. That can just destroy you turn 1 if you don't start Jirachi. You do have a good amount of outs for Cherish Ball and Dedenne and stuff, but I think that Judge Rom is pretty awkward, especially if you go second before you get set up, but no deck is absolutely perfect. This hand is looking pretty close to perfect, though. We may well be in a mirror. We could also be against GreenZard. We're up against Mew 3 right now. Very cool. Alright. We are going to go for Cherish Ball out the gate, I think. We want this to be for Dedenne. Let's have a look. Our other Ninetales is in deck, which is very good. We have 15, 16, 17 fire to play with. We have all of our stadiums. We have all of our welders. Pal Pad. Victini is here. Turtle is here. One Dedenne's in the prizes. Heatran not available. Okay. Let's kick off with that good old welder. That is awesome. That's absolutely amazing. We'll grab this guy. We'll get this guy. We'll attach here. Do I want to Dedenne change away a Jirachi, or do I want to Stellar-Wish into Stellar-Wish? I think I'm okay Dedenne changing. We still have plenty more Jirachis in the deck. This hand is bananas. Heat Factory could end up benefiting him. So could Giant Hearth. The hand is honestly just so good that I feel like we can just Stellar-Wish and sit on it. The only thing I might want to do is retreat out of this Jirachi to play around him using Solgaleo. It's the only thing we kind of might want to play around a little bit. I might Heat Factory just for that play, just to maybe work towards a switch a little bit better, or a board. I'll do it. We also didn't find a Vulpix, which is a little bit unfortunate. That would also be pretty good. Let's have a think. The thing about Solgaleo is it's like less searchable than the other guys, but I think we can just do this. If I had an opportunity to just... If I had another like switch card or board in hand, we would definitely retreat to Dedenne there. They're going to replace Factory with their Hearth. They're for some reason going to Pokegear before the Hearth, but that's fine. They're then going to dump Dragonite with Hearth. Okay, missequenced. They got Dragonite. They do have Welder nonetheless. They do have a Cherish Ball. If they have... Oh, looks like that's the Latios. They're going to just go ahead and bench that guy with the Psychic Energy. They're going to go for the Tag Purge. Probably not the wisest move when we've already got this ready to go. Potentially Clear Vision was actually a better move there. But it looks like we're going to be taking a big early lead. I will continue to Hearth. Our mini quest is still something that we want to keep in mind with our non-GX attacker. I've got more moths around my screen, which is really annoying. We want to try and find comms, Cherish Balls, Dedennes, all that stuff. Pal Pad is pretty great. This can go down. We can put down a Jirachi. I think the turtle can come down now as well because I'm not seeing any way that they can one-shot us next turn, and we can Dedenne change for sure. And we're actually sitting on game right now for next turn. If they put down a 3-prize Pokemon and put it in the active, which I don't think they will, but they might. The only thing we've been missing out so far is the Vulpix. Everything else is looking pretty good. 300 on turn 2 is difficult to deal with for any deck, that's for sure. They are going to put down a 3-prize Pokemon. They're going to hearth away a Viridian for just 1 fire. They're going to Welder. We then see a Heat Factory. And a Com, putting in their own Ninetales. Oh, wow, so they're like a hybrid. Okay. This doesn't seem very smart. Well, Turtonator is pretty good. Whenever you get that turn of freedom, you punish them to the max. Can't believe he left a tag team in the active, to be honest, but there we go. Well, okay, we're able to take 3 pretty convincing wins there. We didn't really see the lack of scoop up, but we also didn't really use the Fini or the Turtonator. Just know that I kind of have them in there for going second against tag teams, in Volcanion's case, as well as knocking out Jirachi's pretty easily and cheaply, as well as Tapu Fini obviously being a nice Blacephalon card. We do have a handful of non-GXs that we can use, but as I said, Turtonator requires like 4 energy. Volcanion's only good at knocking out if you have 4 energy in play as well. Blacephalon's normally taking 1 shot after 1 shot, so it's not very easy for you to chain those attacks. Victini can quite easily take a 1 shot on the Blacephalon at any point in the game because they have such a low amount of hit points. 9 energy in the discard pile is child's play, really. But the Fini does really help out in those opening turns of teething, while you're able to like weld it to a bench Turtonator, attach to the Fini. It just feels very much in your control. So if you want to have easy mode against Blounds, the Fini is a nice choice. Otherwise, squeezing in a couple scoop ups is pretty advisable as well. So hope you enjoyed the video today, guys. And yeah, I'll be back tomorrow. I think I'm going to be looking at Pikarom tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, have a good day.